Hello and welcome to this special Youth Day edition of Business Tomorrow. I'm Chris Bishop. Now, last week we focused on the plight of the traditional media in Africa in the days of COVID-19. Today we look a bit further into the future at how the digital space is growing by the day and how it challenges our very view of the media and how people get and consume their news. I mean, for instance, nearly 2 billion people use Facebook, and that's nearly twice the population of Africa. Then you've got other news sites challenging for the same space, like TikTok. It's a fast-moving, fascinating, and big business. Let's take a look into the background.
Once upon a time, there were ribbons and ink. It is hard to believe that a mere 25 years ago, most journalists were using typewriters. If you wanted to put something out on the media, you had to use a telex teleprinter. What? Exactly. Only then, if your newsroom could afford the steep cost of this. Or a fax machine. That was a kind of a telephone that spat out messages on paper. By the mid-1990s, the magazines and newspapers, and there were lots of them in those days, were talking about cyberspace and the information highway. Fast forward through Facebook and Twitter, and more than 500,000 websites are launched every day. Every second, 17 posts are put online. That means in the time I've been talking, nearly 1,000 posts have been born. Opportunity for entrepreneurs everywhere.
Oh, just think. And certainly you can make money out of it by having a big following online and becoming what people are calling a professional influencer. Just ask influencer Millicent Mashile.
So with me, I work on television as a television presenter and an actor. So as my social media started growing and obviously working as a freelancer, I have so much time in my hands, and brands started approaching me and like, okay, we'd like you to post this for us, and we'd like to post this for us. And I thought, hey, why not? Especially if it's brands that resonate with who I am, then that's how I got into being a professional influencer.
How do you make money out of this?
So they basically use you to get their word out there about their product or about their brand. So they need social media engagement, they need eyes, they need ears to see it. So they use your social media page as a tool to market their product or brand.
How do you build your followers quickly?
I think with followers, it comes really with being authentic, with being consistent, and with really knowing your audience and what they want. And you just basically give them what they want. Of course, staying true to yourself. So with me, I know what my followers like. They like it when I post, just like random days. They don't like pictures that are too posed, too professional. They want to relate. So any relatable content on my page, I get a lot of engagements, I get a lot of following. And I think that's what works for me. And I know it's different for everybody. People like to know what I do in my day-to-day life. They want to see what I'm eating, where I'm going. So for me, I know the more I share is the more engagement I get and the more followers I get.
What do you think of TV, radio, newspapers, traditional media? Do you have much to do with them? What do you think of them?
Television is still relevant, radio is still relevant, and they still have the numbers and the ratings, regardless of how social media has grown. So for me, I still consider that as a great medium as well. But I think social media has grown so much. And I think also because people are relating more to social media because everybody's always on their phone the whole time, unlike television where you watch when you get home, or radio you listen when you're in your car. So I think social media has that advantage over the other mediums. So, and I think that's why people just tend to rather invest marketing into social media than your traditional mediums.
And just lastly, what do you think about some of the problems there are with social media as well? Sometimes the fake news, the online bullying, etc. Surely that's an occupational hazard for you.
Yeah. With social media, there's always just this downfalls and good things as well. But I can say with that, I like it sometimes when these negative things get exposed on social media. And it's very interesting how everybody now just records everything. So Even for the police, I think it's an advantage for them because you can just get caught on camera, but however, you can trend for the wrong reasons. Social media can in fact kill your career completely. You can maybe post something that's like offensive to some brands, or something that's offensive to certain people, like discriminating other people and racial stuff. So there's so many things that can destroy your career on social media. So you really need to be careful. It's just not one of those platforms where you can just go ahead and post exactly what you're feeling, or you just feel like venting. We just really need to be careful with social media spaces. It just takes you to be very, very responsible while you edit. So yeah, for me, I think it has its ups and downs, but just being responsible on these platforms really helps.
That was Millicent Mashile there, a social media influencer. Now, before introducing our panelists today, let's have a quick look at some of the facts and figures behind the story.
The uptake of social media use around the world has been rapid and enthusiastic, with around 3.8 billion active users. Penetration globally now stands at 49%, and mobile devices are popular, with around 3.75 billion people globally using their phones for social media activity. 99% access sites via their mobile devices. Let's look at the average profile of follower distribution by age and gender. The most active being females between 25 and 34. Then, the active average page fans distribution by age and gender shows that the highest percentage, 20% of users, are in the 25 to 34-year age group and female.
Well, let's now go straight to our guests and introduce them all. We have Baraka Kiranga, the founder and director of Hamasa Media Group, who joins us from Tanzania. We have James Wamatai, director of partnerships at the Bloggers Association of Kenya. We have Jocelyn Muhutu-Remy, a strategic media partnership at Facebook Africa, and Benjamin Pius, publisher of Broadcast Media Africa, who comes to us from London. So just to start off with, this whole online media, digital media story, start with you, Benjamin, in London. I mean, do you think that one is going to drive out what's left of the traditional media?
Thanks, Chris. That's a very key and important question. Will social media drive out the traditional media? The answer that I'll give you to that is, I think not. I think not, because haven't covered the industry for 25 years almost, and looked at the rise of social media and what is still happening right now with the traditional media. Well, the traditional media has so much scale that it will be nigh impossible for anything to shift it, not in the short, medium, or the long term. So to answer your question, and not to be pedantic about it, I think social media, whilst it's growing, whilst it's welcome, it's not going to be able to drive out traditional media anytime soon. Saying that, though, I think both of them will find this space to work hand in hand, and actually, both of them have to work hand in hand for the entire ecosystem to grow and develop.
Let's go now to Baraka Kiranga, the founder and director of Hamasa Media Group in Dar es Salaam. You've got both, a large string of traditional media, radio and what have you, but also you've got a strong online. Well, what do you think is likely to happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
First of all, media managers in radio station, TV station, and a newspaper are in dilemma of being editorial independent and at the same time making money out of the digital platform. And for instance, in newspaper, they think that if you establish a digital desk within your media house, it will make money out of it. But it's not working. We have seen a lot of the media outlets reducing the number of their employees because the business of the media is getting difficult and difficult as the day is going on. There is a link missing, and that link which is missing is the alignment between the traditional media outlets and the new and the business strategy so as traditional media outlets and digital media can work hand in hand. There's that link which is missing, the alignment strategy between traditional and the new medias. And many of the media managers, they are lacking that skill. So there's a need and a need of learning how to do business in the new digital era.
Well, I go to James Wamatai now in Nairobi in Kenya. You have many 3,000 bloggers in your Bloggers Association of Kenya, but you're saying only about 7% actually make a proper living out of it. Everyone says, oh, if you get millions of followers, you can make money, but it's not quite that simple, is it?
It isn't simple, and the issue here is that the internet is here. There are many people. There are many Kenyans online, and the opportunity is there. It's very, very huge. But unfortunately, companies are still not allocating proper marketing budgets to this to this sector. By that I mean that you will find that a company will spend millions and millions of Kenya shillings. Sorry, I'm from Kenya. Millions and millions of Kenya shillings to boost for ads on Google, for ads on Google Ads, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. But then they're not funneling enough money to influencers and bloggers. And I think that is a situation that, in my opinion, I think should change, because by investing in content and by investing in local influencers, I feel that they would be able to reach their audiences even better than they are now using the other platforms that they're using.
If I go now to Jocelyn Muhutu-Remy here in Johannesburg, your Strategic Media Partnership Manager at Facebook Africa. In many ways, shall we say, the capital city of online media presence. I mean, you do lots of things now. You do campaigns, people stream on your websites, all kinds of things. But how does Facebook make money out of all this traffic?
Well, before I respond to that, I'd like to address what you were mentioning just now, which is the dichotomy between traditional media and social media. Actually, in my view, there is no such dichotomy. We see more and more media houses, actually all of them, and especially here in Africa, where we tend to leapfrog technology. We see traditional media houses really harnessing the power of social media to essentially gain new audiences. So it's really a matter of mindset, and just seeing these social media platforms like ours as a tool to reach new audiences and not as a threat, right? And with regards to your question about how we make money, it's simply via advertising on our platforms. It's really as simple as that. And that's what we've been doing here in Africa for the past 3 to 4 years now.
Well, just ballpark figure, I mean, what kind of traffic do you need on a website to start even making, making $100? I mean, what's the volumes that you need?
Well, in our case, it's not through website, it's on our platform, right? That's not exactly how it works. The way it works is really by matching advertisers with very specific audiences through location or interests, and by providing very targeted advertising capabilities. That's what we offer to the ecosystem, to the industry.
Okay. If I go back to Benjamin Pius now in London, I mean, as we were saying in the intro, something like 500,000 websites are born every day, 17 posts a second. I mean, the competition out there is massive. How do you make yourself stand out and make money in these circumstances?
So you're beginning to ask the question, how do you stand out? How do you make money? Well, to the point that Jocelyn made just now, you want to actually ask the question, why should you exist at all in the online space, in the social media space? Chris, if you can answer that question, it's like any other business. You see, when you look at entrepreneurs that says they want to be social media gurus or social media barons, or they want to, as it were, run the social media, a social media empire, quote and unquote, then you ask yourself, what is it that you are offering your audience? What is it that you are giving out there that people actually want? It's just like any other business. If you can answer that question, if you have something that when you put up there online, and again, being online does not mean just having a website. It's having a platform that people can access. They can access it on obviously on the laptop or on the computer at home, or increasingly in Africa on mobile handsets. Now, once everybody is able to access your content, however you want to put it, be a website, be a video, be a channel like CNBC is online right now, if you're able to then offer someone something or people something that they actually need, then you will make money. Then you will be very, very successful. And there has been countless of cases like that that I think hopefully we might be able to get into as we go along, where you have in countries, in Nigeria, where I'm originally from, in Kenya, where the gentleman just now has been talking about, and also in South Africa, where the lady that started this show earlier on, you said she's an influencer. Once you are able to give your audience something that is very, very unique, you will gain more audiences, brands will come with their money, and then you sit back and be the happy guy or the happy lady that has this platform that is really generating revenues.
But just go back to James in Kenya, in Nairobi. We were just saying earlier, only 7% of your guys actually make money off it. It's not quite that simple. You say, oh, give people what they want, but I'm sure they're finding out it's not that simple. What are the pitfalls as far as you're concerned?
Well, I mean, I think in my opinion, especially when an industry is starting, I mean, as far as this digital media influencer economy thing, I mean, it's very, very new. When these kind of things are starting, I feel that it's mostly it's mostly sort of like the influencers at the top and the people who are well known. Those ones are the ones who start making money, and then once the industry expands, the money tends to sort of like trickle down to tends to sort of like trickle down to like the others. I think it's really it's really about like industry growth at the moment, and not really about content. Because if you look at the amount of people who are reading content, the amount of content creators, I think there are a lot, but unfortunately, unfortunately, the money is not trickling down to them. And like I said before, in my opinion, I think there needs to be a bit more investment in this particular sort of marketing, because I feel it is way more direct, and I think audiences tend to relate to it more than other types of marketing.
If I could go to you, Jocelyn, at Facebook Africa. I mean, that is one of the problems of today. Everyone's a content creator these days, even people who have low integrity. How concerned are you about fake news? I mean, this can be damaging. I mean, almost some cases it can cost lives if people start putting up fake news. What can you do about that?
This is an absolute top priority for Facebook. But again, I was so interested in what James was saying right now. Let me just answer that, comment on that, and then I will talk about the issue of false information. There are actually different ways of making money on social media. The most common one is branded content, and that's what James was talking about just now. However, there are limitations to it because you are dependent on what companies out there, advertisers out there will want, and whether they will go for you. But there are other ways, like in-stream advertising, for example. So we were very excited to launch in-stream ads, monetization via in-stream ads in 3 countries in Africa: South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya. In these countries, content producers, individuals or companies can make money through advertising in their videos. And we're seeing some very successful examples in these countries, especially in Nigeria, where you have very creative people in the comedy space, for example, who are making a very decent living out of their videos. So I'd like to say, for bloggers and other content creators, explore the world of video much more than the world of writing, because that's where the opportunities are in terms of revenue generation. And with regards to false news, well, this is a key area of focus for Facebook. And we have implemented some very important measures in the past few years, including here in Africa, with our independent fact-checking program. That is a collaboration between fact-checking organizations like Africa Check, for example, or Opesa Check in Kenya, or Dubawa in Nigeria. These organizations do their own fact checks, that's their day-to-day job, and they also fact check on Facebook on our behalf. This has worked well. It has helped to reduce the most harmful content. Of course, we could do even more, and we are investing heavily in this space, in content review as well, where we have reviewers who take down not just false information, but also hate speech and other harmful content. Actually, most of Facebook employees now, over 30,000 people, are dedicated to content review. So these are the things that we're doing. We're also diversifying in terms of languages. We have launched independent fact checking in Swahili, in Hausa, in several languages in 15 countries across the continent.
Okay, Baraka, if I go back to you in Dar es Salaam, so you have both digital businesses and you have some traditional businesses in your stable. This idea of how sometimes the internet is misused, surely it must have a big impact on your business.
It's actually that the misinformation and false information actually impact big business, big business in Tanzania. For instance, in the last 3 weeks, we have witnessed that the authority in Tanzania has shut down one among of the media outlets because of publishing false information. So fact checking is a critical challenge in our nation. But also I want to agree with Jocelyn. In 2018, I worked with Facebook in one of their projects in Tanzania. So many of the journalists, they didn't have enough skills and they don't know the fact-checking tools. So there is a need of teaching people how to use those tools, because at the end of the day, if we will not take any kind of initiative, we'll see a lot of the business closing down. But on the other hand, this generation need customize the content which is correct according to the relevance of our time we have. So if any media outlets will continue to publish false information or any kind of misinformation, they will lose their audience and they'll not make a lot of that income from their content.
Benjamin, when it comes to creating content, surely aren't we going to a place where there are fewer professionals actually checking, sifting, analyzing, and balancing their facts? Are we going to? Because often a lot of people, it's not so much false news, it's the first thing that comes into their head. Sometimes people will write on social media. Do you think there's a danger of losing like a generation of commentators in Africa?
No, absolutely. That danger is there, and it could be growing. It could be something that if we don't address, it might be a major issue. Now, before I go further to that, I wanted to highlight a point, a very important point, which ties into the question you asked me, Chris, which is how do we strengthen the regulations and the regulatory capabilities of media in Africa? And when I say media, I mean traditional media, social media, any form of media, to safeguard the values that we as Africans hold there, so that you don't have a situation where just a post or just something that's been put on TikTok or on any other platform, Facebook, Google, what have you, create panic to our social fabric. And I know that these platforms are doing a lot to address some of these issues. Some of them has been highlighted thus far, but can we do more? If we can do more, what are we doing? And having worked with broadcasters across the continent, the question that they are asking is, how come we as broadcasters, we have traditional means of reaching the audience, we have digital means of reaching the audience, we have online means of reaching the audience, but we are tightly regulated by regulatory authority to do the right thing. And I'm sure CNBC is part of that. But social media, people that create content, just throw it on social media platform, doesn't have that kind of regulation. Now, you ask, do you want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg or what? But the question is, we have to have a framework, a solid framework that checks. Fact checking is fine, but that actually strengthening the regulation or the regulatory capacity of us in the African media space to be able to regulate the content that comes out. Now, if we are able to regulate this content effectively, then you will see that we'll be able to get out the guys that are not in for the values, that are just going to do anything and put it up there and hope that, yeah, it's going to be fine. Because now they need to be accountable to some sort of regulation. So these things tie hand in hand. If you want to have quality content, quality delivery on platforms, you need to make sure that the regulatory capabilities of media industry across the continent is strengthened. I'm interested in seeing what the likes of Facebook, the likes of Google, YouTube, and all these major global platform owners are doing to work with regulators on the ground to make sure that what we see as Africans, what our kids consume as Africans, are what we should be seeing as Africans and consuming as Africans. I tell you, then you will see commercial drive that will actually help the industry grow, make money. Everybody will be happy at the end of the day.
Just
I would
quickly give.
I would like to quickly disagree.
Okay, you jump in there.
With Benjamin. I don't think social media and the digital space needs regulation. It's actually not, in my opinion, it's actually not even fair for some of the regulations that in mainstream media, for instance, are actually not even fair to begin with. So I definitely would not want to see, especially those kinds of regulations, transported or ported to the online space. The reason for this is one. First, we have something called freedom of expression, and these are rights that almost every African country has, and also freedom of the media, which means that people have the freedom to express themselves, but there's a limit. So you have the right to say whatever you want, but you have the you know that you have a responsibility, of you know of any consequences, that come out of that. And so for me, there are already laws. There are already laws on defamation. There are already laws on hate speech, that can be used, that can be used to tackle harmful content. Also, Facebook, and all these social media platforms have, ways of, reporting harmful content. I'd also like to mention that, to Jocelyn, that we are actually part of, the Blogger Association is actually a trusted partner channel, for harmful content, on Facebook. So there are many, basically many things that we can do, to be able to, fight harmful content. And I don't think, and they're already existing, and I don't think we need more regulation.
Okay, I see.
Well, I'm going to agree.
I want to agree
Yeah.
I want to agree with Benjamin. Yes, we need freedom of expression in Africa, but it's very important we can have safe regulation before having the national before having the national framework for regulating online content. It's very important for the media outlets for themselves to have their inside our house content regulation guideline for regulating their online content, because if they'll not have their internal regulations guidelines, at the end of the day they'll be in conflict with different authorities and including government. So it's very important for the media outlets in Africa to have internal guidelines for regulating their online content. Otherwise it will be very difficult to relate with other authorities. Yeah.
Okay, Jocelyn.
Well, I'd like
I think-
I actually agree with everything that has been said. On the one hand, yes, we do need to respect freedom of expression, and some of the current legislation that we find in some of our countries are too restrictive. But I entirely agree with Benjamin as well. And actually, as Facebook, we call for further regulation. We demand it, because at this point, social media organizations like ours are often pushed to make their own decisions and their own regulations, because there aren't overarching regulations out there to help guide us. So there are 3 to 4 areas where we are asking governments to regulate more and help us, guide us. Harmful content, whether it's hate speech or false news or any other harmful content. Election integrity. We've seen so many, so much interference and other negative actions. Privacy, things like data portability. So yes, we are asking for that as well. And here in Africa, we actually have a public policy team whose job is to discuss with regulators and come to an agreement. We have a big team whose only job is to do that. So, so I think we're all in agreement here that more regulation is needed without affecting freedom of expression.
James, if I just get back to you for a second in Nairobi. I mean, one thing that strikes me about all of this, one thing that I fear, is that if ever digital media gets out of hand, governments across the continent and even around the world are going to wave the big stick and say, right, okay, we're going to start restricting it to one and all. Don't you think that's a big worry?
So the digital media and social media has been attacking Kenya, under attack from state and non-state actors in Kenya for a very long time. Actually, we have a whole program on protecting digital rights, and basically, I think it's the other way around. I think it's us who work in this space or consume content online that have to fear the government, because it looks like African governments were not ready for, the conversations, or the freedom that the internet gave, gave their citizens. And so the first thing they started doing is, intimidating those who are creating this content and trying to clamp down on them. In Kenya, during the COVID crisis, already, 4 people have been arrested for, for creating, content that, the state and, another non-state actor said, was fake, and it's based on a law that Beck has been fighting in court. It's called the cyber crimes. It's called the cyber crimes law, and it basically criminalizes fake news. But in our opinion, it does so in a way that goes against freedom of expression and also freedom of the media, because it also targets media. It also targets media houses as well. My opinion is if truly governments wanted to fight misinformation, my opinion is that, for me, I think they would come up with laws that are very, in my opinion, very, very specific, and target people who are engaged in targeted misinformation, not coming up with vague laws that can be used to target dissidents and people who are just creating content that certain state and non-state actors do not like. Also, something else, the biggest way of fighting misinformation is providing truth, and African governments are not known to be truthful. And I feel if they are really to be more honest, and if they had a better strategy as far as legislation is concerned, I think we could better fight misinformation, which we have all agreed is a big problem.
Let's just go back to Baraka in Dar es Salaam as well. I mean, one thing I would personally support tighter regulation on. I mean, all these extremist groups that are using the internet insidiously. I mean, we're seeing it around the world at the moment, sometimes to try to push a certain agenda and dress it up as news. I mean, you must have seen something like that in your own country. What's your feelings on that?
In Tanzania, for individuals, they're allowed to have social media accounts, and they can do anything they want with their social media, but they must follow some kind of the laws, including the Cybercrime Act of 2015, the National Statistics Act of 2016, and nowadays we have online content regulation for the whole country. But for the media outlet, this including TV station, radio, and other digital media outlet, they must have a license from the Tanzania and TCRA, the authority responsible for the regulation of the media within a country. So if any newspaper or any individual running any kind of the digital platform for mass communication without having a license, it will, at the end of the day, will be charged 5 million as a penalty. So if you want to open a newspaper in Tanzania, you can have your physical newspaper, but if you want to have an online newspaper or online TV or online radio, you must get a license from the responsible authority, which is TCRA in Tanzania. So if you don't have that license, it will be very difficult for you to operate in Tanzania.
Okay.
But I think the government is doing that to regulate the misinformation and in digital channels. But on the other hand, they've been people that are not very happy with such amount of penals, because just for getting a license, you need almost 1 million Tanzania shillings. And many bloggers in Tanzania, they've been complaining that amount is very high for them. And in a couple of 1 year, we have seen a lot of blogs being shut down because they don't have enough money for registration, 1 million, and enough money for running daily operation of their blogs. So people are still complaining about that, and the laws are very strictly.
If I could just go back to Benjamin Pius now in London, and we've got a question here from our audience, and I'll just preface it with saying an old journalist, even older than me in Africa, once told me, when online journalism was in its infancy, he said they were being beaten to stories. He said the only problem is a lot of the stories were wrong and turned out to be wrong in the end. The question from the audience is, with the fast pace of online journalism, how difficult is it to fact check?
Is that for me, Chris?
Yes, that's for you, Benjamin.
Oh, okay. Well, it shouldn't be that difficult. Look, listen, the owners of the platform, we must understand that any content that's put online goes on a platform, on one of these global platforms, be it the Facebook platform, and now I think Facebook are also emphasizing videos. I was going to say if it's written, be it on YouTube, be it on TikTok, Twitter, what have you. So these platforms ought to have, as Jocelyn have mentioned, ought to have systems in place that could help flag off any content that they see that is probably not correct or will be termed fake. I think Facebook in America, no, it was Twitter, sorry. Twitter in America did that with current situation, with their political and governmental situation over there. But in Africa, they can also start applying that scenario at that level. Now, if you come to the actual content creator, how do you, if everyone is putting content out there, how do you know which one is actually factual and which one is fake? How do you fact check it? I guess, suppose there are organizations that have been set up. I don't know how well funded they are though. And I don't know how disinterested they are in terms of what interest they have with the funders that are funding them. But I do know for sure, and Jocelyn mentioned a couple of them just now, that there are groups and organizations that actually checks content that's been posted, be it on traditional media or on social online media, to see how accurate they are. Now, Chris, the thing is this, we don't have as much as we should. Now, we need to have more of those guys. So at the level of the platform, there needs to be tightening of the capacity to actually, or capability to actually check content before they go out, or block content that's already out but needs to be stopped. On the level of the content creator, there needs to be an awareness, and the guys that are actually on the ground, the organizations that are on the ground that are checking them, needs to do more work. We need to create more of those organizations so that they can do more and better work. Now, if we put everything together, we will be able to have a situation where content are easily checked online. My question, and what really concerns the industry that I represent and that we work in, which is the broadcast media industry, is this. How come, as you alluded to, Chris, how come someone can sit in far away, probably here in London or northern Nigeria, put together a content, it has no relevance to what's happening in society, publish it, and that content sort of takes a legs of its own and becomes an issue for society, when as a broadcaster, I am not allowed to do that. If I did that, my license is gone. So how do we then ensure that that kind of framework that applies to us broadcast media organizations or institutions or companies is applied to the likes of the platforms such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, and so on and so forth. Jocelyn, I'm sorry I keep mentioning your organization's name, but you will understand where I'm coming from.
Sure. I've got another question here from the crowd here. So I think maybe James, you were talking about regulation earlier, someone says, why not regulate the platforms themselves and let users continue enjoying their personal freedoms?
Absolutely.
I think, you know, I think we need to, like, separate like, for instance, harmful content with, with people who just, write, let's say, insults or just, just falsehoods. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be, regulation directly targeting those people who are creating and propagating harmful content and also bullying others, etc, etc. There needs to be that, because at the end of the day, it's not the platform, it's not Facebook that's that's spreading harmful content. It is them, but they're using that platform. As far as Facebook is concerned, I think maybe what should be done, and government should make sure that this is done, is that they have better policies, and it is easier to bring down harmful content when it has been identified. But I don't think that it is fair to make Facebook pay for this, for the scenes of, of like a third party that they don't even know. But they should have better policies that protect especially vulnerable groups, and other people using their platform. And also they should make it easier. Actually, all these platforms, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, they should make it easier and faster to report and take down harmful content.
Now, I've got a question, Jocelyn, just for you. It says, someone asked from the audience, how is Facebook making sure that advertising dollars go to credible news websites rather than just viral content that gets a lot of views?
All right, so I'll respond to the previous comments first. There are thousands, maybe millions of pieces of harmful content that are posted on our platforms. However, you as the audience only get to see a tiny portion, because remember, we have invested massively in artificial intelligence, and most of it is actually taken down before anyone ever sees it. Our policies in themselves, I think they are quite robust, our community standards. What we should work more on, in my view, is on digital literacy. Because somebody mentioned that we should have more fact-checking organizations. Yes, that's true. We have too few in Africa still. But even if we had thousands of them, it would still not be enough until people learn to pause before they share, to identify false news, to understand that their own unconscious biases or conscious biases, before manipulating content. So these two things need to work in tandem: digital literacy and reinforcing our fight against misinformation via independent fact checkers. But I'd like to respond to something that Chris was mentioning when he asked Baraka about extremism, for example. We see what we call coordinated inauthentic behavior on our platform, and we are fighting against that really as robustly as we can. Just recently in May, in Tunisia, we took down hundreds of pages of groups, of personal profiles that were all fake and that were coordinating activities, harmful activities in Francophone Africa. Of course, there are groups behind these kinds of actions, groups or even governments sometimes. So that is really a major focus area for us as well. And about how is Facebook making sure that advertising dollars goes to credible news websites? It doesn't work like that exactly. It's not that advertising dollars goes to the media. That's not how it works, unless I misunderstood the question, or maybe the person is implying that maybe Facebook is benefiting from virality. Actually, no, we are moving away from virality as much as we can. If you were one of the media partners I work with, you will know that one thing we advocate for is content that is actually longer, especially in video, more immersive, cleaner content. We are really pushing for quality content. Virality does not actually serve our purpose. It's not in our interest for our platform to become trashy. We're fighting against that. We don't want, you may remember actually that in 2018, we made a major change to our algorithm that really cleaned up the platform quite significantly. You don't see those viral videos that are did not, bring quality to our platform.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the show now. If I can go back to Baraka Kiranga up in Dar es Salaam. One of the premises of the show, what opportunities are there for young African entrepreneurs in all of this digital transformation? I'll start with you, Baraka.
The opportunity we have in decades ago, there's no anyone who's speaking about social media or digital platforms. But in recent years, we see a massive of people joining the digital platform. For instance, in Tanzania, we have almost 25 million people who have access to the internet. So the market is there. The question is, how do we make money, or how do we educate or entertain our market? We need a new set of skills. Digital entrepreneurs and media outlets, first of all, they must make data-driven decisions on their marketing strategy. To make data-driven decisions for the sustainability of the new media startup or traditional media outlet, to make data-driven decisions for sustainability. First of all, you need to integrate your digital platforms. For instance, let's say a website for the newspaper. That website should be integrated with artificial intelligence tools. So at the end of the day, you can be able to predict and to understand your audience, what they want, and how the futures look like. If you don't integrate monitoring tools and other artificial intelligence tools, you'll not be able to know or to understand what's the need of your demographic data. So to survive in this industry, we need to make new data-driven decisions on redesigning our business model. Otherwise, we'll not be able to make it, even if everyone will be in a digital platforms.
Benjamin Pius in London. We're getting to our closing comments now. I mean, not too many years ago, some people would think they'd be more likely to be an astronaut than running a media organization. But now, if you've got a cell phone and ambition, you can do anything. What are the opportunities for young entrepreneurs?
So you're very true, correct, Chris. Anyone can be a media baron just now. But okay, talking about opportunities, I want to separate two things. Okay, I want to separate what I think is still the current thinking about online media or social media offering, which is basically you write a blog or you take a short video and you look to put it online and hope that you will have audiences that will view it, make you popular, and so on and so forth. There is still space for that. But where the big bucks are, Chris, is creating these structures that brings all this ecosystem together. Okay, this online media ecosystem, creating the structures that bring them together and being able to offer that to the global platforms. Okay, that's the number one. Then the number two, as I see it, is creating applications, online applications that will actually benefit society. Now you're talking about e-health, online education, so many online services that can be created that you don't really have to say you are a blogger or a writer or a vlogger, however you want to address yourself. But these are where you can actually start to make impact and start to actually gain traction in terms of commercial viability. So that in the future, there's nothing that's stopping an African from creating a platform that actually catalogs the ability for anyone on this continent to be able to access health services from their mobile phone. It's being done, but currently done in patches. That ties into if you create an overarching structure, intelligent one, put it out there, then you will see the opportunities will come and you will make the kind of money that we are talking about that really makes an impact in your life and in the life of the people that are around you and in society at large. That is how the guys that do it in this part of the world where I am currently resident. That is how they do it. And that is what I think will be my final message out there, that we should think more than just posting items. We should start thinking more about creating the systems, the structure, and the applications that these structures and applications that this media will work on and will give us the value that we need to be able to say we have done it.
Okay, James Wamatai in Nairobi. What's your future? What's your view of the future? Sorry, and the opportunities for young African entrepreneurs in the long term.
I think my colleagues have talked about that. The direct, beneficiaries of the online media world. But I'd also like to talk in the future. But I'd also like to talk about support services. For instance, when we start, I'm I'm a media owner myself, and when I started, I couldn't get a good IT person who could run my website. It used to always go down. I was also struggling to get someone to create banners, especially specifically for the online space. There's also other spaces around the online media, which are apps, chatbots, and all those things. So I think the future, will bring like a lot of opportunities around yes, online media, but also a lot of support services that all these platforms need, because they need to run, and they need to run well. And so there'll be all these satellite companies that are supporting the online world. Something else that I see happening is a sort of like amalgamation of basically mainstream, what you're calling now mainstream media, such that it will be most, in my opinion, I think it will be most seamless in that they basically what they do offline and then what they do online will be more. I think the I don't know, the combination of that, I think would be more seamless. And then also I think that we're going to see a lot of corporatization of online media. I know right now there are so many independent independent brands online who are online only, but I see a lot of funds flowing through to the online media space, that will get, in my opinion, like a lot of corporate money flowing in there. And so maybe now you call this mainstream online media. I don't know. So I
Okay.
think those are my thoughts.
I'm sorry, running out of time a bit here. Just a last final brief comment from you, Jocelyn Muhutu-Remy.
Well, yes, the future for African digital creators and media startups is bright. However, three things need to happen for this success. One is that we need to resolve the connectivity situation of our continent. We are still lagging behind. We are last, across the world. And as you might know, at Facebook, we've made a major investment in this regard recently. Another thing is training, skills training. We still see a big gap there, and we're also investing massively in this sector, in video storytelling and giving grants, etc. And then data savviness. There's no media success without understanding audience, and I feel that we're not doing that enough on our continent. Once these things are sorted out, the world will be our oyster, and African media houses and digital creators can be as successful as any creators from across the world.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you very much to my guest, Baraka Kiranga, the founder and director of Hamasa Media Group, who's in Dar es Salaam, then James Wamatai, the Director of Partnerships of the Bloggers Association of Kenya, and also live to us from London, Benjamin Pius, the publisher of Broadcast Media Africa. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on this edition of Business Tomorrow. We'll be back in just over 2 weeks' time, and let's have a quick sneak preview of what's coming up in the next edition of Business Tomorrow.
In the next edition of Business Tomorrow, we'll be looking at development finance in Africa. How vital is this investment to the functioning of the economy? What are the challenges? We will have top voices on the subject from across Africa. That is Business Tomorrow on June the 30th at 1400 CAT on CNBC Africa.
Okay, we'll see you then, just over 2 weeks' time. From now, me, Chris Bishop, and the team here, it's goodbye.